On June 26, 1284, a man walked into a German town. He was wearing colorful clothes. He was carrying a flute. By the time the sun went down, 130 children had followed him out of that town. None of them, not one, ever came back. And here's the part that should disturb you. This actually happened. The town built a stained glass window to remember it. The window still exists. And after 700 years of investigation, historians still cannot agree on what really took those children. Hamelin was nothing, a tiny Saxon town on the Weser River, 1,500 people, farmers, bakers, a few merchants. The kind of place history was supposed to forget. But Hamelin couldn't forget. 16 years after that day, while the witnesses were still alive, while mothers who lost their children were still alive, the town commissioned an inscription. Latin, carved into stained glass. They wanted the world to know. In the year 1284, on the day of John and Paul, the 26th of June, by a piper dressed in many colors, 130 children born in Hamelin were seduced and lost. Read that again. Seduced and lost. Now, most of you think you know this story. The Pied Piper, the rats, he leads them into the river. The town refuses to pay him, so he comes back and takes the children as revenge, right? Wrong. That's the children's version. The Brothers Grimm wrote that in 1816. 500 years after the fact. They needed a moral. They needed a villain. They needed a reason. But the original story, the one carved into that stained glass window in 1300, has no rats, no revenge, no payment dispute, just a man, a flute, and 130 children walking out of town in broad daylight while their parents watched. Nobody stopped them. Nobody ran after them. Nobody, according to every account, even seemed surprised. And that is the part that should haunt you. So, what actually took those children? Historians have ruled out the supernatural. Whatever this man was, he was real. So we're left with 3 theories, and each one is darker than the last. Theory 1. The Children's Crusade. In the 13th century, charismatic preachers were sweeping through Europe convincing children, sometimes thousands at a time, to march toward Jerusalem and liberate the Holy Land. Most died on the road. Many were sold into slavery in North Africa. Was the piper a recruiter for one of these movements? Theory 2. A medical phenomenon called St. Vitus dance, a neurological disorder that swept Europe in the Middle Ages. Mass episodes of uncontrollable movement, people dancing themselves to death, walking off cliffs, marching into rivers. Could 130 children have entered a collective trance state? Could that be why nobody stopped them? But there's a third theory, and this is the one that historians take most seriously today, because the evidence, actual documented evidence, is hiding in plain sight. In the 1280s, German nobles in Eastern Europe were paying recruiters to bring settlers east, to underpopulated lands in modern Poland and Czech Republic. These recruiters were called locators, and here's what they wore. Bright, multicolored patchwork clothing to be visible at fairs and markets. They carried instruments to draw crowds. They were called pipers. And in villages in modern Poland and the Czech Republic, there are family names that exist nowhere else in Europe. Hamel, Hameler, Hamelman, names that match Hamelin records from the 13th century. Exactly. The children of Hamelin weren't taken by magic. They were taken by a man who promised them a better life. And they got on the road, and they walked east, and they never came home, because they didn't want to. Or, and this is the question that keeps historians awake at night, Maybe they did want to come home. Maybe they got there and it wasn't what they were promised. Maybe by then it was too late. We will never know. The mothers of Hamelin never knew either. Whatever walked into that town on June 26, 1284, was real enough to leave a wound that hasn't healed in 700 years. Another world is waiting.